Hey, empathic healers, welcome back. The question for the day: do you minimize, alter, or avoid sharing your thoughts and feelings? So yesterday, we talked about denying our feelings or altering our feelings altogether. Do you deny, minimize, or alter sharing your thoughts and your feelings? Are you ready to dig deeper? Grab your journal and journal with me. Today, we're talking about communication, your truth, and throat chakra energy. So, welcome to the Energy Healing Lifestyle Journal, Self Care Challenge Day 19. Again, my name is Robin Knott, and I'm your host of Energy Healing TV and podcast on YouTube, Rumble, and Spotify, and the founder of the EnergyHealingSchool.com. I'm a certified Reiki Master Teacher and have a Master of Social Work degree specializing in mental health and addiction treatment. And I am here to teach fellow empathic healers various energy healing methods with a strong focus and self-care, self-worth, and self-love without feelings of blame, shame, or guilt. So one of the ways we can protect our energy, release what isn't ours, is by doing this journaling process, right? So my process is kind of three-step. Be aware, assess, and align. Be aware of your energy, assess it, and then align with the source of unconditional love. So with that question being asked, what do you think? Do you speak openly? Are you able to share what your thoughts and your feelings are assertively? So we have different communication styles, right? We have assertive, which is that, like we're polite, we're kind, but we're open and we're able to share our thoughts and our feelings. I just saw a blip in my thing, so hopefully we're all good. There's also passive or aggressive, or that combination of the two. Maybe you hold back, or we project out very strongly, maybe not so polite in ways when we share our thoughts and our feelings. And then also listening, right, is a part of communication. So do we actively listen? Do we really listen to hear what other people are saying, to hear what their point of view is? Holding that space, allowing them to also speak whatever we say their truth is, which again is their perspective and their opinion on a situation, right? Or do we listen to pounce? Do we listen kind of selectively, have that selective hearing? I hear what I want to hear. Or maybe it's not what I like, but I was waiting to hear that thing so I could pounce. More reactive listening. What is your communication style? I think that's big. It's very big. Let's also reflect on a little bit on what I call, at least my own perspective of your truth. So I always use a pen for an example, but I feel it's a great example because most of us, I think, don't have emotional attachments to certain pens. There might be some situations. So the truth of the matter, right? Just truth, factual in itself, without any opinion or perspective. This pen, you can tell by the cap. Well, actually, I could be lying to you, huh? I'm not, though. The pen is light blue. Yeah, it writes. Used it for my journaling, writes in light blue. That's the truth, right? It is what it is. I can say it's purple, or it looks purple to me, but it doesn't make it purple, right? It stays light blue. It just is. That's a fact of the situation. However, I can share my opinion about it, my perspective. It's true for me that I like to write with blue or even purple pens, sometimes red. And that's great. That's for me. That would be so if I said blue pens are amazing. Well, that's my truth. It's amazing for me because I like to write with blue pens. But maybe that's not amazing for everyone, right? Maybe someone else feels that black pens are amazing. They're the best. Well, that's your truth, not mine, because I like the blue pens, right? But you see the difference. I think it gets twisted sometimes when we talk about quote unquote speaking your truth. Because yes, facts are facts. We don't change. I don't change this into a purple pen just by saying that it's my truth to call it purple. It's still light blue, right? It's still light blue. I don't have to love it or I can love it. I can find it amazing or dislike it. that is my truth, that is my opinion, and that is my perspective. And I have every right to share that, and you have every right to share yours as well, right? On other situations, but again, just my little pen example there. I find that, I don't want to say attacked, but people sometimes want to debate. So just clarifying for the sake of our conversation and for the process of journaling when I talk about communication and speaking your truth. So again, yesterday we reflected on holding back and not sharing how we feel. And maybe what are some underlying things or what stops us from doing that? What are those old programs or conditions or feelings that we have that prevent us from really sharing what we think and what we feel? And there are different situations or can be different situations in that, right? So again, speaking out thoughts and opinions, do you feel attacked when you share your thoughts and your feelings? Are you aware of how you communicate? Because sometimes it's how we communicate it, right? So it's come into my awareness more so in the past couple of years, my communication styles and how I communicate things, and then learning or relearning to adjust how I communicate, not stifling, not changing my thoughts and my feelings, just changing my communication style so that I could share more openly without creating too much contrast to maybe trigger that projection of defense back from whoever I'm communicating to, right? And then sometimes there are situations where there's that saying, pick your battles. And it makes me think of kiddos, right? Raising kids, teens, so especially like that age of teenagers, picking battles of what I want to share my thought and feeling on and deciding, especially as teenagers, because, there's a big difference between younger kids and how much we need to share and teach as they're younger. And then as they're getting older and becoming more into their own human, right? They're always their own human, but you know what I mean. They're more of their own thoughts and they're more of their own opinions. So then we might change how we communicate. Or there's some things where it's like, I don't really have to say something about that. It's not that important. It's just my own opinion of something, but it's their thing. So, like, mom can step back a little bit and let them be their own person without injecting too much of my own stuff. Hey, hi, Darlene. Good to see you. Thanks for hopping on. I appreciate you sharing and commenting on the posts and whatnot. It's good to see you live. Thanks for coming. So, I don't know how much of this you've been watching or have you heard, but are you aware? Because I have like a three-step process you probably noticed in my journaling process. And one is to awareness, right? We want to bring in more of us into our awareness because sometimes we don't really notice assessing our energy in those each situation. So are we in alignment with the source of unconditional love, or am I kind of stuck in my programs and conditions of humanness, right? No blame, shame, and guilt. It's just awareness. And then if we're not already in alignment with the source of unconditional love, what is an action step we can take, right, to get more into alignment? Darlene says, glad to be here. Thank you, hon. Thank you. So I was kind of covering two communication styles, right? So we have assertive, which is how we would want to communicate, where we can share our thoughts and our feelings openly with kindness, right? We don't have to sugarcoat everything, but we don't have to be harsh either. So finding that balance, if you will, on the ways that we communicate. But then sometimes we communicate passively or aggressively or a combination of both, right? Use more body language instead of verbalizing what we're thinking and feeling. Or I've had both, right? I've gone to extremes where I would be over more like aggressive in the way that I speak, like more demanding and just reactive, trigger responses basically, and projecting that old humanness, defenses and personalization and such, where I would get aggressive in the way that I spoke and more demanding in what I was saying. And then I went to the other extremes of where I would just wouldn't say, forget passive. It was just like nothing. I just shut it down, not bother. I felt like a losing battle, I think, in those times. I'm trying to reflect back quickly to see like what would initiate that shutdown. But yeah, I think it's just like losing battle kind of things. I find now there's still times where I'll wait to speak. It's not that I don't speak, but I'll wait to speak until I can determine, because I still have like what comes in our mind versus what comes out of our mouth may or may not match at all times, which for me can be a good thing because what can go on in the mind might still be some of that old defensiveness, right? So the mind might be using words that aren't mm, assertive, but lean more aggressively. So then I like to process through that and make sure that I am really honing in on where I stand with a situation before I just project out. Because again, sometimes it's just old trigger reaction stuff. And once you get beyond that, then you're like, oh, okay. Or I misunderstood it. I can look at it with a different lens or different perspective or see more of the conversation, more of what's being said versus, or more of a situation versus just that quick trigger response that might come to the mind real quickly. Right? Let me know if that makes sense. So, in this journaling process, the question of the day was that do you minimize, alter, or avoid sharing your thoughts and feelings? And then we can always dive deeper into our journal, right? And see where that comes from. Like, why is that? Do we want to just avoid conflict, right? Or do we just assume that we're going to be misunderstood because we get used to sometimes being misunderstood and we get kind of tired, right? Tired of having quote unquote to explain ourselves. I'm just sharing with you some of my own, so you can let me know if it resonates or not. Darlene says makes sense. Cool, thank you. So being aware of that journaling allows me to be aware because I write out, and I've shared this a couple times in my videos. Used to be when I journaled, I didn't really have a process in it. I just journaled, right? It was more like a vent session, an opportunity to get my thoughts out or my feelings out. And I would go through that and then go back and reflect later on, not necessarily later in the day, sometimes like weeks later. I'd find my old journals, go flip back and look at a situation. I'd read it and it was like, what? Where did that come from? What was I thinking? And I was way off from what the situation was even about. So I could really start to see how I misunderstood situations based on triggered stuff. So it's really interesting and great, excuse me, how journaling can help bring things into our awareness. So really reflecting on how we speak. And do you listen to yourself talk? That's been an interesting skill as well, where I hadn't in the past, but going through this more and more, I hear myself speak more and I am catching times where like, oh, how that sounded in my head and how it sounded coming out of my mouth was very different. But it's cool when you can hear that, and then you can say, "Wait a minute," like, before anybody else responds right now, like, "Wait a minute, that didn't sound how didn't sound right. Let me try that again, maybe a different wording." Um, yeah, just the style of how we communicate it. But I think it's very important because if we lean too far one way or another, like most things, if we lean too far one way or another, it makes our energy really wonky, right? So if I'm shutting down and not speaking up when necessary, or if I'm over speaking, meaning I'm just reacting and reacting and reacting and not really processing first, it affects the energy in our throat chakra, which then affects the energy flow all around us, right? Communication is also important and boundaries. So as we talk about protecting our energy and releasing things that don't serve us, being able to communicate our boundaries, being able to communicate letting go, even if part of the releasing, maybe our ritual or our routine is to do that privately, which is fine. We can do those things energetically, but we still want to be able to communicate it in the right vibration, if you will, right? Because everything is energy and energy vibrates at a certain frequency. So if I'm even projecting and speaking out in my own, say, journaling, or what some people call expelling or what have you, is I'm writing it out or I'm making my intentions and setting my intentions of wanting to release or wanting to whatever it may be. I don't want to do all that from that lower vibrational triggered projection, right? We want to be in a higher vibration. So allowing ourselves to process through that before setting the intentions, before setting the boundaries, before communicating that out. So again, hopefully that made sense. And we don't want to stifle it either. So again, the opposite. I don't want to avoid journaling, avoid speaking, avoid thinking, avoid processing, because then it just builds up. It can create a lot of issues in the throat as well. So when I was a kiddo and I didn't speak up, I never didn't make the connection then because I didn't understand. I didn't know then what I know now, right? But I used to have a lot of problems with like tonsillitis and strep throat, um, sinus issues, allergies, sinus infections, like all of that, all of the energy and throat chakra, right? Lots of it. And then ironically, I had my tonsils taken out and they grew back. And I know that's not super uncommon, but mm, we have conversations about that too, right? So anyway, hopefully you found this useful. And homework, if you will, continue to check in with yourself, right? Use your journal, increase your self-awareness, assess your energy. If whatever your comes up in your journal, so if you find that you're stifling or if you're projecting, either one, if you find that they're not already in alignment with the source of unconditional love, what is one step you can take to shift into the source of unconditional love? And again, sometimes that step is just holding space for yourself, just recognizing it, just taking the time to journal, right? Just being honest with yourself without blame, shame, or guilt. We sometimes when things come into our awareness, we think we've come so far, right? Then the ego wants to start in and challenge and beat ourselves up. No, it's not blame, shame, or guilt. It's just awareness, that's all. So that we can continue to clear things out, heal what we need to heal, right? And help others as well, because that's what we're here to do. Darlene says, yep, balance. Wait, they grew back? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Didn't even know it at first till I had gotten strep throat again. I thought, how weird. I had had strep throat since I had tonsils, and I went to an urgent care, I think. So I tried to get rid of whatever I had on my own. And I tried for like a month. And it was just getting worse. I could like not really swallow. So I finally went to urgent care and they're like, so how long has it been since your tonsils grew back? I'm like, what? They what? Yep. I'm like, oh, don't know. Good to know though. Fortunately though, I have not, I'm going to do one of those knock on wood things, right? Had not had strep throat since. But yeah, our bodies are amazing, aren't they? Another, if you haven't already signed up for the Empathic Healers Masterclass, it's a step-by-step guide to set boundaries and protect your energy. Please do that. In the description, I have a link there for you. The live round, first live round, is November 20th. I will have replays though as well. So if you want to go ahead and sign up for that so you get your reminder and your link, that would be amazing. And of course, meet me back here tomorrow to talk about acceptance and being in observer mode and third eye chakra energy. So I hope you have a wonderful day, evening, whatever time in the world it is for you. Thank you so much for coming on live and sharing your energy, or replay. Either one is fine. And if you are comfortable, go ahead and drop in the comments or in our community and share your experience in the journaling process and what may be coming up for you and what you're able to get from it. Darlene said, awesome, fantastic. Thanks, love. I will see you soon. So much love. Bye, guys.